Have you ever wondered what counts as consciousness? It's a question that has puzzled philosophers, scientists, and thinkers for centuries. We often think of consciousness as simply being awake or aware, but it's so much more nuanced than that. It's not just about recognizing that you're awake, it's about understanding what it means to be awake. Imagine waking up in your bedroom. You immediately recognize the familiar surroundings. The way the early morning light filters through the blinds, the familiar scent of your room, the softness of your sheets. You know where you are. You understand your place in this world. You are conscious. Consciousness, then, is about more than just awareness. It's about understanding, interpreting, and making sense of our surroundings. It's about recognizing our own existence and the world around us. It's about the ability to have an internal narrative, to tell ourselves a story about who we are and what our place is in this vast universe. So, consciousness is not just about being aware, but about understanding and interpreting. Now, you might wonder, what's the science behind consciousness? Well, it's a fascinating journey that leads us into the realm of quantum physics, cognitive science, and philosophy. One of the most intriguing theories is the integrated information theory, or IIT for short, developed by neuroscientist Christoph Koch. IIT proposes a bold idea. Consciousness is the ability of a system to have causal power upon itself. Imagine a system that can learn from its own mistakes, improve its performance over time, and adapt to new situations. This self-reflective ability, the capacity to influence its own future state, is what IIT identifies as consciousness. It's like a computer system that, instead of just following pre-programmed instructions, can actually learn and evolve. It doesn't just react to inputs, but actively shapes its own outputs based on its past experiences. It's this ability to self-modify and self-direct that IIT sees as the essence of consciousness. But how do we measure this, you might ask? For this, IIT turns to a concept known as phi, a mathematical measure of a system's integrated information. The higher the phi, the greater the level of consciousness. Critics of IIT argue that it's overly simplistic, that consciousness is far too complex to be captured by a single measure. But proponents counter that its strength lies in its simplicity, that it offers a quantifiable, objective way to tackle an inherently subjective phenomenon. Despite the debates, IIT continues to push the boundaries of our understanding, challenging the dominant ideology that simulation equates to consciousness. It presents a new perspective, one that sees consciousness not as a product of complex computation, but as a fundamental property of the universe. In essence, according to IIT, consciousness is the fundamental reality and the only thing that exists for itself. But as you can imagine, not everyone agrees with this theory. The world of neuroscience is rife with debates, especially when it comes to the nature of consciousness. Integrated information theory, or IIT for example, has its fair share of critics within the scientific community. It's been challenged on many fronts, with some scientists arguing that it's overly simplistic, or that it fails to adequately explain the complex phenomena of consciousness. The dominant ideology in the field is that simulation equates to consciousness. This perspective proposes that if a system can simulate the workings of a conscious mind, then it must be conscious. But is this really the case? Consider a simulated environment in a video game. These virtual worlds are filled with characters who interact and respond to their surroundings in complex ways. They might even display behaviors that we associate with consciousness. But does this mean they're conscious? Critics of the simulation theory would argue no. They contend that while these characters may exhibit behaviors that mimic consciousness, they lack the subjective experience that defines true consciousness. They don't feel or perceive the world in the way that we do. They're simply following a set of programmed responses. These debates illustrate just how complex and contentious the issue of consciousness is. It's a topic that continues to baffle scientists and philosophers alike, and despite our best efforts, we're still far from a concrete definition. So the question remains, what counts as consciousness? And the answer, it seems, is still up for debate. As we journey through the intriguing world of consciousness, we've explored its scientific underpinnings and immersed ourselves in the debates that continue to shape our understanding. We've dived into the integrated information theory, challenging the concept that simulation equates to consciousness, and recognized consciousness as the ability of a system to exert causal power upon itself. The consciousness conundrum, as complex as it is captivating, remains a subject of intense research and discussion. So next time you find yourself wondering about your own consciousness, remember, you're not alone in the quest to understand the nature of our existence.